people that would argue that having a threesome is actually good for your relationship and that it could really help in certain ways. And there are others that would say, hell no. Why would you even suggest that? You crazy. It's a horrible idea. I would never do that. Oh, I should break up just for you saying that to me. It's definitely mixed opinions on the topic. But let me ask you, have you ever had a threesome? How did it affect your relationship? Before you watch this video, drop that in the comments. Get the discussion started. Because in this video, we're going to talk about whether or not having a threesome is good for your relationship. And if it's something that you're considering, we're going to go over a few things that you need to keep an eye out for so it doesn't ruin the relationship you have. Be sure to watch to the end for the number one thing that you have to watch out for if a threesome is something that you're going to entertain. So the first thing we want to keep in mind is that we're all different. I have different preferences, things that I like, dislike, things that make me comfortable, things that I'm uncomfortable with, and the same goes for you. So that being said, everyone's relationship is not going to be, the same. There's going to be a lot of variables that, make my relationship different from your relationship and their relationship. So this isn't something where we can look at it as, a one size fits all situation. So with that said, it's important to, talk to your partner about the things that you like, the things that you dislike, the things that you may want to try, and don't rely on or solely on past experience from relationships that you've had previously. Remember that the person that you're with now is not the person that you were with before, and that in order for the idea of a threesome to work, you two have to be on the same page. And that brings us into our next point. The second thing to keep in mind is that in order for you to have a threesome in your relationship and it not blow things up, your level of trust and communication in your relationship have to be top notch. You cannot engage in an activity that would involve you bringing a third party into the fold in such an intimate way and not be in a position where your relationship is not solid. If you're in a spot where the trust in your relationship is lacking, you're questioning how that other person feels about you, you're questioning your partner's intentions. Do you really think inviting someone else into your relationship is going to do anything but ruin it? And what about your communication? If communication isn't top notch, well, the whole entire process of the threesome, how that plays out, is likely to, fall through because your communication isn't what it needs to be. So don't set yourself up for failure when it comes to, looking to experiment, or engage in this activity that's supposed to be fun by ignoring the fact that your relationship isn't where it needs to be for this to even be, possible. Make sure your trust and your communication are top notch and that you worked on that and got it where it needs to be before you even think about the idea of entertaining threesome. So we just mentioned how the communication has to be top notch in a relationship. Well, that segues right into our next point of how we need to set realistic expectations. We need to let our partner know what we're comfortable with and what we're expecting from the threesome, and they need to share the same with us. If we're going to be uncomfortable with anything or there's some things we don't want to see, we need to make sure that we're sharing that with each other as well. Because if we're not, setting the expectation for what it is that we're looking for, well, we're liable to get something we don't want, right? And when it comes to these expectations, we need to make sure that they're realistic expectations that we're setting. Probably not a good idea to invite someone into the fold that's already, like close to home, like a best friend or something like that. Why have your best friend, in your bed with you? Because that's what you're talking about, right? And risk that something go awry, and now that person, whether it's your girl's best friend or the guy's best friend or whatever, why risk a situation where things go awry and then you feel like you can't have that relationship with that person that you've been friends with so long? That's one of those things where it's probably not a realistic, expectation that you'd be setting for yourself if you thought a situation like that, was going to go over well. So be realistic. Probably not a good idea to consider someone that's really close to either one of you, someone that you would see all the time, just in case things don't go the way that you would expect. Now, this last point has and will continue to mess a lot of people up if they continue to ignore and dismiss it. In the midst of communication, this is not something that just happens at the beginning of you engaging in this, threesome adventure, right? This is something that needs to continue throughout the entire process. So if at any point when you're exploring this threesome with your partner, you are uncomfortable or you don't like something, you need to speak up. This is not a situation where you don't say anything and then you hold it inside and then you repeat the process and have another threesome with the same person or someone different, and you just don't say anything. And then when things finally blow up because you've been holding it in, it's been causing problems, it turns into, well, I didn't want to say anything because I wanted you to be happy, or yada, 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 yada. If anything makes you uncomfortable, communicate it immediately, so that you and your partner can remain on the same page. And if you're not on the same page in that moment, you can get on the same page. If it's not working for you, then it's not working for them. If it's not working for them, it's not going to work for you. Remember, a threesome can be fun, but not at the expense of your relationship, right? Because then if you lose your relationship in the process of doing it, was it really worth it? No. So please continue to communicate through the process, and never underestimate the importance of communication, not just in a situation where we're exploring, the things like threesomes, but just in general in your relationship. Trust and communication are two of the main foundations of a healthy and successful relationship. Never forget that. When it comes to answering the question of, is a threesome good for your relationship? I'd say the answer really lies, with you and how you want your relationship to look. You have some people that are really free spirited, right? So the idea of having a threesome to them is really not that big of a deal. I think traditionally, or if you just say the typical person, I think the typical person that may have more traditional values and outlooks probably gonna look at a threesome as a bad idea, or so far outside of the box that they may not be able to consider it. But again, everybody's different, every relationship is different. So whether it's a good or bad idea is really going to depend on you and your partner and the things that you all decide you want to explore or, X out. It's really going to be up to you. But just make sure that you're communicating your desires, your intentions, and that you're being honest and realistic with yourselves and one another, so that if you decide to, do a threesome or something else, it's something that you both can embrace together, and it's not something that's one-sided where one person is doing it just because the other person wants them to do it. I guarantee you a situation like that is never going to work out in your favor. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check this one out, and I'll see you in the next one.